Peter Edodi, a storyteller and a poet from Ghana, West Africa, wrote a story which he entitled An African Christmas Story. My name's David Woodall with the United Church of Canada. This story arose out of meetings he had with displaced children from war-torn Sudan, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Rwanda, and other parts of Africa. It reminds us that in this bubble of North America, we lose sight of so much of the despair of this world, and we lose sight of so much of the hope of this world. Peace has yet to come. This is Peter's story. The Night Before Christmas, an African Christmas story. It was the night before Christmas, and I was very sad because my family life had been severely disrupted. I was sure that Christmas would never come. There were none of the usual joy and anticipation that I always felt during the Christmas season. I was 8 years old, but in the past few months I'd grown a great. Before this year, I thought Christmas in my village came with many things. Christmas has always been for me one of the joyous religious festivals. It was the time for beautiful Christmas music on the streets, on radio, on television. It had always been a religious celebration, and the church started preparing way back in November. We really felt that we were preparing for the birth of the baby Jesus. Christmas was a time when relatives and friends visited each other, so there were always people traveling and visiting with great joy from all the different tribes. The houses were always decorated with beautiful paper ornaments. The children and all the young people loved to make and decorate their homes and schools with colorful crepe paper. All of us looked forward to the Christmas Eve service at our church. After the service, there'd be a joyous procession through the streets. Everyone would be in a gala mood with local music and a Mardi Gras kind of celebration. And then on Christmas Day, we all went back to church to read the scriptures and sing carols to remind us of the meaning of the blessed birth of the baby Jesus. We always thought that these were the things that Christmas meant. After the Christmas service, the young people received special chocolate, special cookies, special crackers, new clothes, and perhaps new pairs of shoes. They were told that the gifts came from Father Christmas, and this always meant Christmas for us. Oh, how I wish that those memories were real this Christmas night, that Christmas could be as it once was. This Christmas Eve, things were different, and I knew Christmas would never come. Last April, the so-called Army of Liberation attacked our village and took all the young boys and girls away. I was amongst them. Sadness and desperation were our only companions this Christmas Eve. When we were first taken, we were separated from our families. Some were murdered. We were forced to march for many miles. We were often hungry. We were given so little food. Oh, I wish now I had some of that traditional food consumed at the Christmas Eve dinner and the Christmas Day dinner. Rice, chicken, goat, lamb, fruits of various kinds. The soldiers burned everything in our village, and during our forced march, we lost all sense of time and place. One rainy night, sometime in December, when the soldiers were distracted, by some sort of miracle, we were able to escape away into the tropical forest. We wandered for what seemed like weeks, wandering, searching, trying to go home. Finally, we made our way back to our burned village. Most of us were sick and exhausted and depressed. Most of the members of our families were nowhere to be found. No idea what day it was, what time it was. My sick grandmother, who had somehow still survived, noticed the reddish and yellow flowers that we called fire on the mountain, blooming in the middle of the marketplace of our devastated village. It had stood there for generations and had bloomed for generations at Christmas time. For some reason, it had survived the fire that engulfed our village. I remembered how the nectar from that beautiful flower had always attracted insects, making them drowsy enough to fall to the ground to become food for crows and lizards. We were surprised that the fire the soldiers started to burn the marketplace and the village with did not destroy this amazing fire on the mountain tree. What a miracle it was. Grandmother told us it was almost Christmas because the flower was blooming. As far as she could remember, this only occurred at Christmas time. My spirits were lifted because for a few moments I saw that flower. Soon, though, I became sad again. How could Christmas come without my parents, my village? How could this be Christmas time when we celebrate the birth of the Prince of Peace? Because since April, we have known no peace, only war and suffering and terror. How could we celebrate as my grandmother instructed us to do? She died last night. The struggle to survive had been too much for her. As I continued to think about past Christmases and joyous Christmases and the presents and the current suffering, the terror and the devastation, the loss. As I was thinking about these things, we heard the horn of a car, and not just from one car, but the horn of several cars approaching our village. We hid. At first, we thought the cars were full of men with machine guns. We were in the forest. To our surprise, they were not, and they didn't have guns. We slowly emerged from the forest. They were just ordinary travelers. It seemed that the bridge over the river near our village had been destroyed last April when the soldiers left our village. Since it was almost dusk and there were rumors that there were landmines on the road, we didn't want to take any chances. Their detour had led them straight to our village. When they saw us, they were shocked and horrified at the suffering and the devastation, the emaciation of all of us. Many of those travelers began to cry. They confirmed that tonight was really Christmas Eve. All of them were on their way to their villages to celebrate Christmas with their family and friends, and now circumstances had brought them to our village at this time, on this night before Christmas. They shared the little food they had with us. They even helped us to build a fire in the center of the marketplace to keep us warm. In the middle of all this, my sister became ill and could not stand up. A short time after we returned to our village, my grandmother told me that my oldest sister was expecting a baby. My sister had been in a state of shock and speechless since we escaped from the soldiers. I was so afraid for my sister because we didn't have any medical supplies, and we were not near a hospital. Some of the travelers in the villages removed their shirts and clothes in order to make a bed for my sister near the fire. On that fateful night, my sister gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. This calls for a celebration, war or no war. Africans have to dance, and so we celebrated until the rooster crowed at 6 a.m. We sang Christmas songs. Everyone sang in his or her own language, and for the first time all the pain and agony of the past few months escaped. When morning finally came, my sister was asked, "What are you going to name the baby?" And would you believe that for the first time since our village was burned and all the young girls and boys were taken away, She spoke. She said his name is Guy Nwami, which means except God, I fear none. And so we celebrated Christmas that night. Christmas really did come to our village, but it didn't come in the cars or with the travelers. It came in the birth of my nephew in the midst of our suffering. We saw hope in what this tiny little child could do. We felt peace, finally. This turned out to be the universal truth of how bad things turned into universal peace and hope. The peace and hope that we found in the holy baby Jesus. A miracle occurred that night. I knew then that Christmas comes in spite of all circumstances. Christmas came even to our village that night. All of a sudden, I understood that we were not alone anymore. God bless you.